All right, I'm making this video about how to grow microgreens. Okay, let's go over just a simple checklist. I posted a picture of some of my greens on Instagram, and one of my sisters was like, "Oh, those are looking nice. How did you do that? I'm having trouble getting my get my sprouts going." And so I just thought I'd make a video of the process, kind of building the whole entire indoor garden and everything. So let me look at a list. Like, as someone who's been gardening for a while, there's kind of, when I make an indoor garden, there's some factors and some equipment that I kind of keep in mind. So let's go to this list. Okay. So number one, lighting timer. These aren't in any order of importance. These are just an order just as they came into my head. Okay, so in terms of for a microgreen setup, lighting is one of the things you're going to need, obviously. Lighting timer. Why a lighting timer? Because growing plants is all about light cycles. For the vast majority, I'm going to go by cannabis. Lighting cycles, that tends to be what my baseline of knowledge touch from, where, or you can look at it like summer versus winter. Summer days are 18-hour days, winters is 12-hour days. In the summer days, more vegetation. In the winter and fall, there's more blooming. So being able to control the lighting schedule, that's the way you're able to mimic the cycles of a day, right? If you want a longer day for vegetative growth, you want a shorter day for blooming. Generally speaking, that's not with every plant. Just the plants that I tend to deal with, some are auto flowering, where they're just going to bloom after a certain number of days, like tomatoes and things of that nature. But I don't grow those so much indoors. So a lighting timer, very important. Even if you just want to keep it on the same cycle, you do want to cycle. You don't want to have to be going in and out and turning the lights on and off all the time. It's just a pain in the butt. Like, you're not going to keep up with that schedule. The thing about gardening is making a system that makes it easy to garden. If you have to do extra things too much, then it just makes gardening not as pleasurable. Okay, so the light timer, that's obvious. Let's go to number two. We've got shelving. You're going to need some type of shelving. I got my shelving on Amazon, and we can kind of do a little segment where we just kind of go through the list and do a little bit of shopping, so you can kind of see what my thought process is. Okay, so shelving, it's I we'll talk about that in a bit. Grow trays. So you see this tray that it's growing on, this green tray. This is a grow tray. Very important. Very important thing about this tray is that it's graded, so the roots actually go through there, which is an important aspect of these trays, and it's an important thing to consider, because essentially, because of that, these systems, even though you can use soil and different medium like coco coir, this is essentially like a hydroponic system, where the water, the plants are getting the water from the roots, which are down here, and all you need to do is bottom water it, and the roots. That's all I've been doing essentially. Is I might water a little bit at the beginning just to get the soil moist, but ultimately they grow through there. So these trays that are 2-in-1 are amazing. They're really affordable on Amazon, and this is a great purchase. I was buying the 10-20 trays, which you can do if you're growing but they're way bigger. Like, almost like, this is like, I want to say 60% of the size of a 10-20 tray. I'm rough estimate. So if you're just starting out like I am, you don't necessarily want to have a big tray that you could possibly mess up. So the littler trays, or even if you're just starting out, you can really just use little pots and stuff to, like, just to experiment with, see how the seeds grow. You don't need to grow a whole tray first. But whatever. I mean, because I know what I'm doing, it's not. I'm pretty comfortable with that, so not a big deal for me. Okay. So the grow trays, coco coir is the medium that I use. You can use soil. There are people who don't use any. Like, literally, this tray, it is possible to grow things without any soil medium, because usually soil, the function of soil in traditional gardening, when you're doing it outside, is water retention, it's nutrient retention, and then it's also to help the plant anchor its roots in. So one of the functions is no longer necessary when you're using the trays, because the anchoring of the roots is done by those little grates. It'll go into those grates and kind of anchor itself. The main thing that you're doing with the soil at the beginning is really just retaining water, so that the seeds stay moist, and then the hulls swell, and that'll kind of ignite the germination process. But you don't actually need the soil as far as the anchoring. I use it because as water retention, I don't want to keep watering all the time. So if I just pour water on there, it'll keep the seeds moist until it's time to sprout. Once they sprout, then I start, and the roots grow down, then I start watering it from the bottom. Um, okay, so the coco coir, that's the medium that I use. Again, you can use soil if you have enough skill and you have a setup that is ideal for it. You can even do it without soil. It's possible. It's been done. I just use soil for it because it's easy. It's cheap. Coco coir is very cheap. I can get for $20 worth of coco coir. I can make 100, maybe conservatively saying 100, 200 trays. And it's inert, doesn't have any nutrients, doesn't really attract bugs. So I like coco coir. You add your nutrients if you need them. Okay, number 5, seeds. Okay, very important. Obviously, you're gonna need seeds. Seeds can be expensive. So and they can also be inexpensive. It's just about doing research about where you can get seeds that are matched with some microgreens that you're willing to eat. Like, you can go to Whole Foods and get seeds. You can go to your markets and get seeds. You can go to Fred Meyer's or like the Target to get seeds. I've gotten seeds from all those different places. And it's kind of like, obviously, if you go online and buy microgreen marketed seeds, they're going to be more expensive, but they're probably going to be better, less debris on them, less to clean. So that's going to save you some time. If you were doing microgreens commercially, or you were just having some fun and you knew what to do and you were just growing them for yourself and eating, I say the expensive seeds it's a good value if you know what you're doing. But if you're I'm just using it as chicken feed, so I'm going to use bird seed because it's dirt cheap comparatively, and for the nutritional value they can get out of those sprouted microgreens, it's a good price. So seeds, it's just about shopping. All seeds are not equal. Some seeds are just more processed better than others. Some have a lot of debris in it. Some have less debris and cracked hulls and things like that. So just kind of making sure, just shopping around to find out what seeds will work for you, what seeds won't get too moldy or anything like that. Okay, speaking of mold, number 7, airflow. When you're having an indoor garden, so important to have air moving through the room. You cannot have a stagnant room. You cannot have a stagnant room. You got to have some fans. You got to have some air exchange in that room. I use just a rotating fan with microgreens because they're so the grow cycle is so short. Is not that much of an opportunity for pests to kind of find them and linger on them. And the main things you're going to be dealing with is mold, and like airflow is one thing that definitely helps alleviate the problems with mold. If you're getting air to pass through your plants regularly, then you're going to have a healthier environment for your plants. Okay, number 8, very, very, very important, obviously, is a water supply. I use 5-gallon buckets in the room, and then I use a water pump to make sure that the air is being aerated, because just over time that'll just kind of release the toxins, the aeration, the bubbles, that process of the bubbles, carrying those unwanted gases to the top. It'll just kind of clean your water out. And also, stagnant water, if you're living in hotter climates, is going to attract like things like mosquitoes and stuff like that. So the combination of airflow and aerated water is going to make it a clean, healthy environment. You're just trying to create the healthiest, cleanest environment for your plants, so everything grows in there. Just nutrients. With microgreens, I'm not using a ton of nutrients, and I've had, obviously what I saw you the plate I grow. I just use because I'm a worm. I do worm composting. I used worm compost essentially as my nutrients because it's such early life stages. Everything in those in the worm castings is pretty fine, and then I'll pH the water down to about 6, or 5.5 to 6, because that's the nutrient intake is a lot better when the pH is lower. So I include pH as part of my nutrients. Like pH is one of the things that I buy so that it can drop the pH of the out of the tap. What we have here is a pH of about 8, like right in the middle range. You want it to be slightly acidic. So dropping the pH, I bought pH up and down as a like 2 of them, because I was like, I might pH up But I don't. You don't. I don't ever use a pH up. I don't recommend using pH up. I just recommend adding more water, and just taking your time, going very slowly. Add a little bit, measure it. Add a little bit, measure it. So in terms of the pH, you want something that can measure the pH if you want to go that route. If you want to use tap water, it's fine. Like it, I'm sure it can work. I've grown plants with tap water, but these are things I do to accelerate the growth. All of it, like of all the list of the things I'm doing, you might not do every single one of them, and you can see which one you can leave out, especially if you're just starting off and you have this price, the money to do a whole setup. You can kind of see, okay, what can I do without at first, and what can I get away with, um, and you kind of make that choice from there. Also, let me just read kind of the nutrients that I put: pH, magnesium, anything with magnesium, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. I use diatomaceous earth in case there's any fungus gnats or anything around. That's something you can use just to keep those at bay. That's the most common thing that would happen with microgreens is I feel fungus gnats because the larvae eat the roots, so they're interested in the roots, which are exposed. And a lot of the times I'll at the beginning I was picking up the trays to water, and you'd see a little fungus gnat fly out, and you're like, oh. So I started spraying, putting a little diatomaceous earth in a spray bottle and just spraying the area. You can spray the roots even if you want, and that will just keep that in the area, and will make it unpleasant for them. So all the nutrients that you think you might need. Again, microgreens aren't nutrient heavy stuff, and if you actually use like soil as opposed to cocoa coir, the soil, the nutrients in regular soil would be enough to get, I think, for the entire life cycle. Honestly, if you had pH water and just, it would be enough to get it started, and then you just use pH water. But I do have worm castings, so I just mix in just a very little bit of worm castings. I don't have any accurate process with it. I just kind of mix in a little and make sure there's a tiny bit so they get a little bit of nutrients. So 10, the water pump. Just again with your water supply, I kind of should have put that with the water supply. Is just like I use a water pump just to make sure that the water is moving and aerated, just healthier water for the plants. A processing table. So a processing table is very important because when you're weighing your seeds, cutting your products, cutting your food, just everything. Like a lot of things I use on that table. I weigh my seeds out, I cut things out, I use it as a platform to water, I use it to store little bits of equipment like clipping equipment and stuff. So just having a table where you can just sit there and go to work, like whether you're filling trays up with dirt, I can sit at the table and start going to work like that. Or weighing seeds or whatever, I have a little place, or cutting things up, I have a place where everything, I can just set things on that table and work from there. So that's for me. I just any type of garden, even with the outdoor gardening, I need a processing table. So I need this one I bought, just a folding table from Amazon, and it was cool. Okay, so another thing was a scale. So I use a scale just to weigh out the amount of seeds because I just try to be as precise as I can, and I guess whatever scientific, so you can like kind of look at your results. If I weighed out 70 grams, how much of a yield did I get off that? Were there a bunch of seeds that did I overcrowd the tray? Could I use less seeds next time? Weigh maybe 10 grams less so that each seed has enough? Or did I pack it? So for me, just weighing them gives me a sense of I just don't want to eyeball seeds because it's just every seed is different. Like broccoli seeds are smaller, so you don't need as many. So if I just keep a number in my head, okay, 17 grams of broccoli seed can fill this tray. 70 grams of sunflower seeds can fill this tray. Dude, and then I just keep those. I kind of have a little place where I write that down. That's helpful. So the scale really helps just kind of keep the amount of seeds that I'm using consistent every time. And then if I want to make variations from there, at least I know where I was before. Again, I think a scale is not something you need at first, obviously, but that's just with me, the amount of gardening I've done over time. it makes my life easier when I don't have to. It makes things quicker for me. If I just say 70 grams, boom, it's just a number. Whereas like, oh, I don't know, let me eyeball it. So those are things that just make all the things on my list. A lot of them is just about convenience and speed. Like all the ultimate garden that I would want if I had all the money in the world would be an automated system where everything the temperature turned on. There was a thermostat in there and airflow in there that was automated. So you do as much of that as you can, right? And then do what you can, right? Obviously, I don't have automated watering system, so I have to manually water it, right? So just make as many things as like can run on their own as possible in your garden, indoor garden is gonna be a happier gardener. The less you have to do, because there's always gonna be tons to do, but the easier you make that kind of process for yourself, then the easier you make that process for yourself, then the more likely to be in the garden you are. You just don't want to be doing, And another thing that I didn't mention, just cleaning supplies. Have a waste bin in there, somewhere to throw away dirt, seed hulls, paper towels for spilled water. Because again, you're working indoors. And like outdoor gardening it's easy for me to be messy and let dirt go around or seeds or whatever because the creatures outside kind of take mother nature and the creatures take care of all of the debris for you, but inside the debris is all you. You've really got to kind of make sure you keep your area clean, like keep your garden clean, like get a broom, get a dustpan, get a waste basket. If you want to separate organic material, waste material from inorganic, so you can go dump all your seed hulls and stuff on the compost pile and not have to worry about it, so you can be recycling. I think that's a great idea. I I'll admit I've just been throwing everything into one dustpan and but I have been cleaning. I do sweep and I do make sure that um, I'm able to clean. That's why the shelving that I got is shelving that is has wheels. That way I can, because a lot of seed hulls just they fall on the ground. That's kind of what you want them to do. You want the seed hulls to fall out off, but with that means you gotta do some cleanup. So just making sure that you're have some form of waste removal, right? Paper towels, because there's water in there. You're gonna spill things. It just happens. You want to be able to wipe things up. Dirt gets around the place because you're dealing with coco coir. You're medium. You want to be able to clean that up. Seed hulls get on the ground. You just want to be able to clean that up. So just make sure you have some. Even though I didn't put that on the list, just make sure you have some basic cleaning supplies. I probably got to put that on the list anyway, right? Maybe I could say with the water supply, we could go boom, water pump like that. Okay. And then instead of water pump, we go cleaning supplies. And I think that makes it a better list. Because yeah, that's super important in your garden. You want a clean area. You want to, if it's cluttered and it's not, just think, that's not an environment you want your plants in. You don't want to have to walk over things or have to get over something to get to something else. That's like not ideal. So just make sure your area is super clean, as clean as you can, and just make it organized and have a place for everything. And happy gardening. I'm gonna make another video where I'm gonna go over where to buy all the stuff, and then we can go. You can go from there. All right. Thanks so much for listening, my family, my lovers, and hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully this inspires you to get started.